Are you tired of doing the same old boring shoulder mobility exercises? Let me explain how mobility functions and show you some better exercises. Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Jason Kelly, creator of The Balanced Body. Hope everybody's having a great day today. Today I'm going to show you hip mobility, shoulder mobility, thoracic mobility, the whole mobility circuit. But before I begin, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you can receive future notifications based on more mobility training, strength training, fitness, and whatever else I produce. The thing about mobility is mobility, yes, it's just kind of moving your wrist around, your shoulder around, your back around. That is mobility. But in order to secure and have control over good mobility, you need alignment first. For example, if you're trying to do shoulder mobility and your thoracic is too far bent over and you're trying to do these mobility exercises, well, it's kind of not going to work for you. You're going to create mobility in your shoulder, but you're never going to make your mobility efficient, effective, and in the means of maximizing it for, say, baseball, throwing, things like that. So in order to maximize your mobility, you need alignment. You need joint stability first. So what I'm trying to say is that compared to this here, you can actually do it. And if you're standing up straight, you've increased your range of motion. You've increased the maximal amount of range that your shoulder can move. And how do you keep yourself in position? Well, alignment requires stability. Mobility is not just a movement of your joint, it's a movement of contracting the shoulder and the back muscles, allowing it to move forward and freely into the anterior position. And as it moves into the anterior position, these muscles contract and they relax, and so there's this contraction and relaxation that occurs back and forth. That is how movement functions, and that is how mobility works. Now, mobility becomes dysfunctional when one set of muscles does not contract and stretch properly, or one muscle just doesn't stretch well, it loses flexibility. Well, then therefore, yes, you will lose mobility and you will lose joint stability, because maybe the unstable joint is being held in a position for a certain reason, and you would need a functional assessment or some functional training to fix that. And so that's what I'm talking about when we look at joint mobility. Joint mobility is not just moving the joint around. It is part of that, but a part of being successful and having that control is the contraction and the stretch. The contraction and the stretch of that. Now we're going to go into the layers of mobility, because your hips are the most important part first. So you want to make sure you do some stability work, like glute pinches, hip bridges, planks can even work well for this situation, because your hips are going to dictate the spine. And what do I mean by that? So if my hips are in this forward position here, you can see my lumbar hyperextends. If my hips tilt back, you can see my thoracic starts to round. And so when I bring my hips into that neutral position here, if I squeeze my glutes, my spine will stand straight up. And so a lot of times you find poor shoulder mobility is because the hips aren't aligned properly. And if the hips aren't aligned properly, then the thoracic's not going to be aligned properly and move properly, and the same with the neck and the shoulders and so forth. It's this kind of domino effect. And so everything starts with the hips being in a center position. The spine will automatically correct itself into its normal position, and therefore you can optimize thoracic mobility better. And then when you have stability of your thoracic spine, you can optimize your shoulder mobility better. And then when you have same idea with the shoulders, then you can maximize your neck better. Exactly. So a lot of times it comes from the hips. If the hips are dysfunctional, the spine is going to correct itself, compensate into another position. And when the spine compensates into another position, and guess what? So do the shoulders, and so does the neck. And that's the importance of working with getting your body aligned and stable first at each joint, from the hips to the spine, all the way up through thoracic and neck. And when you have this alignment and stability, then mobility will be more effective and more functional, and therefore you can maximize its power.
All right, so I start off with my lunges first because I'm trying to get, again, strengthen that glute and activate the glute, so the hip flexor, the knee, and the ankle are going to optimize and have a lot of more functional mobility. And so I was working with the back leg, and now I'm working on the front leg here, working on the ankle. So if you see it doing on one side, don't forget to do the other side as well. Here I'm doing the hip bridge on the bench because I want to incorporate the back muscles. So I'm activating the glutes here, and that glute activation is reciprocating to activate the core. And the core and the glutes activated at the same time is going to make the back a lot stronger and more stimulated. So you can see this is a good exercise to start with because it's going to really help you to realign, align, and stimulate the stability of those main primary joints to be more mobile, and so your mobile is more effective. And here I'm adding in just a rotation side to side, working on the oblique and lat. So remember that when you rotate to the right, your left oblique is working and your right lat is working. And now I'm just doing a little bit of a deeper overhead movement here to stimulate the lats and the core a little bit more. Now I'm taking it down to the floor, and what I'm working on is the glute medius here, the small stabilizing muscle on the side of the hip that works in reciprocation with the adductor muscles, the inner thigh muscles. And so since I'm in this position, I'm adding a little bit of a rotation here. Don't hyperextend your spine. Keep your glute nice and tight when you kick it back. And now I'm just adding a little bit of a rolling technique. Rolling is nice to activate the spine and the hips and getting them to work together. And use your elbow there too to rotate to contract your back muscles. So you can see I rotate back and I'm really contracting those lat muscles and the glute at the same time with the oblique. And from there I roll right up into this kind of pigeon pose here. And what I'm doing is moving up and down, just increasing the stretch and contraction of the muscle. And then we're going to roll side to side to work on those deeper internal muscles behind the big glute maximus. And so again, once you get comfortable, don't roll maximal effort. Roll small and then roll from small into bigger rolls, okay? Just so that the muscles start to open up properly. And now from having that glute medius worked up on the side of the hip, you can go into the frog pose. Frog pose is nice. It's going to really stretch those adductors and make the glute medius contract on the side of the hip. And so here I'm adding the thoracic stability and the thoracic rotation. The first you saw me lift the arms up. Now I'm rotating through the side. Remember, when you do these rotations, contract the oblique. Contract the oblique. Don't just move through mobility. Make your muscles work for you, because that's how you become more mobile and how you can transfer your mobility into your strength training or your sport like baseball or any type of throwing activity or whatever it is that you play. And then here we just move it back and forth, contracting. And so I changed the position of the frog so you can see this. And what I'm trying to do is I'm rotating my foot up and out, up and out. And so I'm working again on those deeper rotators of the hip that are going to help with more hip rotation. So now we're going into the standing Cossack. And what I'm doing again, small movements, ankle, knee, ankle, knee. Make sure the ankle is going to be mobile. And then I go deeper into my stretch to make sure. Now after doing the frog and this glute medius and the adductor stretches, now I'm ready for Cossack stretch. because it's better to have that opened up before you get into Cossack. You'll have better mobility and better flexibility. And once you are able to have those small movements functional, now you can go deeper into those larger movements. As you can see, when I go to the side, I rotate my foot up, my toes up. What that's doing is rotating that glute medius and working on that hip joint rotation. And then from the standing position, again, I squeeze my glute and then glute medius, all working at the same time and rotating the hip. And now I'm adding in the thoracic rotation with that hip rotation as well. You can do it without hip rotation, the thoracic rotation, but I'm just doing them at the same time because that's kind of the natural movement pattern. Now I'm moving into a single leg rotation. As I do my single leg rotation, what I'm doing is I'm squeezing my quads, I'm squeezing my glutes, my butt, my big part of my glutes, my glute maximus, and you're going to feel glute medius kick on too at the same time. And so do it slow. You don't need to go fast through these exercises. Sometimes you can pause through these exercises just to stimulate more contraction and more strength. And now once I feel I have the hips working well, now I'll add in the thoracic mobility as well with the shoulder mobility. So you can see here, it looks like a pitcher. It looks like I can do some type of throwing motion here. So again, these are mobility types of exercises for general or for throwing. Now we move it down to the floor. You can mix it up any way you want. I like to go up and down. I like to have a little bit of flow, and then I stop that flow. And so now I'm on the floor. I'm squeezing my glutes, and I'm rotating my shoulders. Palms come together, and then the palms face up. Palms come together, palms face up. And what I'm doing is I'm inhaling and contracting my core as I lift my hands above my head. It's going to stabilize you better. And that core transference is going to transfer into your shoulder mobility and your arm movements from your core and your glutes. And so you see here, I did a single arm, and now I'm back to the double arm. I lift my feet off the floor just to give me a little bit more glute contraction. And now I'm trying to touch my hands right behind my back there and going forward. So this is a nice exercise as well. So now that I got the core and everything fired up, I put a little bit of weight. I like using weight and resistance bands for my mobility training, as you'll see in another video. Here I've incorporated some things, but I'm going to show you those in another one because it's just a little long in the video. And so right now I'm working with my core and my shoulder mobility. So my core has to stabilize and transfer through the arm and shoulder rotation. And so here I'm doing, from there, I'm doing obliques. So oblique. So when you rotate to the dumbbell forward, the other one should be moving in a kickback motion. So it's oblique and lat muscle, oblique and lat muscle. So you should feel your oblique and back muscle working at the same time when you do this rotation here. All right, back up to the standing position. We're doing a deadlift that is going to the outside. And when you do this deadlift to the outside, again, you're lifting that dumbbell in the back up. That is going to stimulate your back muscles, your scapula, your mid back muscles, your rear posterior shoulder muscles as you do the rotation. So again, it's about rotating the oblique, making the oblique fire with the back and shoulder muscles. That's the power. And here is a windmill. Again, we're rotating the windmill to the opposite foot, and we are putting the other dumbbell above the head there. That's working with the lat and shoulder. This is called the pretzel. And what you're trying to do is that leg that's bent, not the leg that I'm holding, the knee that's up on the floor, that knee needs to stay on the floor. That is the primary point of start. That knee stays on the floor, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to use the oblique, the back muscle, the shoulder, and the stretch of the hip flexor all at the same time. Now I'm going to show you a technique of how to breathe and get into this stretch even more. It's important to breathe when you're doing stretching and mobility because it actually makes you more flexible and more mobile. So here you can see I have the primary point down, and so you'll see me here. I stop, so I breathe in, inhale, and then I exhale out. And so I'm inhale, 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 hold, and exhale out. And watch how much more motion I have here. You can see I can sit right back into that a little bit more. So same thing, breathing in, inhale, hold, 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 exhale, inhale, hold, hold, and I exhale. You see how much more motion I get there? That is how you increase your flexibility instantly and your mobility instantly. So watch when I do the last movement pattern here, kind of hanging out there. I come on back forward, and you can see that I had a lot of mobility and a lot of flexibility that was generated there. And so from that position, I move right into up a standing right position and just working with some basic thoracic rotations. Again, oblique, core, keep your quads tight here, and rotate. And as you're rotating, make sure the opposite arm is touching the shoulder like I'm doing there. Touching the shoulder, because as you lift that arm up and touch the shoulder, you're going to make the oblique work. If you had a weight, it would work harder, but it's just activating the oblique as you lift that arm up and over. And here we're doing the running like sprinter's position here, running position, lifting the knees up high. And then I'm feeling a little tension in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that knee in. I'm going to breathe in, inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale, and then let it go. And you can see there's more mobility that actually happens in your knee. So I'll do it with the other side here. Inhale and exhale, exhale, and let it go. And then I can feel, you see the deeper, I can bring those knees up a lot easier. So I have a whole other video segment about breathing and flexibility. That I'll put in a link at the end of the video here with another one, or I'll put it down in the description so you can look for it. And this is the arm bar. And so what we're doing is the arm bar, you don't want to twist into the lumbar. Squeeze your glutes, and then rotate. Don't do this without squeezing your glutes. Squeeze your glutes, pinch, tighten, and rotate. Because if you don't squeeze your glutes, you're not going to feel it. You might get it into your lumbar, but you won't feel it all the way through your lats, your back, shoulder, and arm. Again, it's about connecting your mobility. It's about having control over your mobility. And this exercise is working with the knees and ankles. Knees, ankles, and hips, but it's primarily with the ankles and knees, working on those two joints together. And so we're just doing knee bends, simple there. Stretch on the hamstring if you need. Stretch in the ankle position there. Nice exercise. I actually like this exercise a lot. There also could be called Hindu squats. If you want to add a little bit of a challenge, take the bench here, and then you can simply add a little bit of more leverage here to your ankles and knees and make them work a little bit harder. This is another one that I like a lot, and you can see how I can really get deep into this pattern. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a cat and cow type of stretch with my spine, and then I'm inhaling and exhaling. And what I'm really doing is you can see my arms and my hands are pulling into the bench. That is going to make my lats flex here. And when my lats flex here, you can really get deep into the stretch. Again, remember, your back muscles are important for shoulder mobility.
Hey, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this mobility training segment. A lot of it, there's a lot of exercises here, but I need to explain how mobility actually functions, because you can get hurt by just doing mobility exercises, not understanding like, well, if my thoracic's too far forward and I try to force that mobility, yeah, you might injure your shoulder. And if you're trying to force your hips in a certain way, yeah, you may injure your back. So it's important to understand how mobility functions and understand the way the hips are structured for functional mobility and how this domino effect is very important. So don't forget, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you can receive future notifications. And if you really like this video, share it with somebody who you think really could use mobility or understand mobility better. And while you're waiting for that next video, make sure you check out this one right here.